Hey guys, hope everyone is well. So we are going to have a look today at Spider 25 nonetheless. We've recently just come out of a Spider tourney. It's one of the tournaments where I notice a lot of people just tend to go for like the min requirements to get the top reward and then call it a day. Mainly because Spider is one of the harder dungeons to do if you don't have the right champs. But today what we're going to do is look at something quite endgame specific, where if you don't have Sicia Flamtongue, a sort of speed running team which does it in around about 30 seconds. Sometimes less than 30 seconds if RNG's on your side, but 30 seconds consistently. Which is huge for Spider 25. Spider 25 just gives you better rewards overall, which just helps out progression of your account. So yeah guys, here's the team. So this is a team that does Spider 25 around 30 seconds. So it varies between 31 seconds and 29 seconds. I did, over a course of this Spider tourney that came out 2-3 days ago, I've done about 14,000 points in it, and we failed only once, and that was due to Kaimar not having a stats he has now. Since then, it hasn't failed. It's been 100% success rate and around the 30-second mark. So we're using Crypt King Graal, Tyrant, Coldheart, another Coldheart, and Kymar. So the most important part of this whole lineup is probably for Kaimar. To do it in 30 seconds, you've got to have a complete reset of your abilities. Renegade's good, but Renegade doesn't completely reset your skills. She just decreases the cooldowns by 2 turns, which isn't enough to get your Coldhearts fully back, and isn't enough to get your Tyrant and Crypt King fully back to what you wanted them to do. So we'll start up the run again, and I'll show you it in action. It's fairly self-explanatory. If you've seen any sort of like AoE HP burn, then freeze and Coldheart sort of scenarios for Spider, this is it, but just with a little bit of a tweak, which we'll get into when we have a look at the stats. It's really satisfying when you see the HP burns start ticking. It's one thing I love about this build. Is just see the boss just slowly kill himself. There we go, so 28 seconds. The fastest time I've had on Spider 25 was 23, but that was with Draco, and I think it was with a completely different build, a completely different team, but it was about a 60% success rate, whereas this is 100% guaranteed win rate, which is awesome. Which is what you want really at the end of the day. So let's have a look at their gear. What we'll do is we'll start off with the main damage dealer, which is Tyrant. So for a lot of people, myself included, I didn't realize this till stream the other day. Tyrant's got a really strong kit. So his passive decreases damage inflicted by enemies under HP burn debuffs by 10%, which on Spider 25, those spiderlings, they actually hurt a lot. And this damage mitigation from his passive is huge. It allows you to just make sure your main champions stay alive. If Crypt King doesn't land his freeze debuffs on a couple of spiderlings, and those spiderlings attack, let's say your Coldheart, before your Coldheart gets off her second Heartseeker, there's a good chance that she would have died without this passive. So really strong passive. And the abilities basically we're using him for is A3, so it's an AoE, 100% chance of placing HP burn. And then also he'll use his A3, which is ally protect and increased defense. So once again, just making sure the team stays alive whilst all those spiderlings are attacking you. He is fully booked, so he is fully booked out to get that HP burn percentage up. And also this cooldown's nice if you use them in faction wars and that side of things. Stats wise, Tyron is my second fastest in a team. So the turn order goes Coldheart, Tyrant, Crypt King, Coldheart, Kaimar. That's the rotation you want. So the Coldheart uses their A3 first to just decrease turn meter fully, do a bit of damage as well, doesn't hurt. Tyrant lays down HP burn. Crypt King then freezes all the HP burn. Then Coldheart goes, the second Coldheart goes, use another A3, then Kaimar resets, and then you use those abilities again in the same order. The reason why you use them again in the same order is just in case you missed HP burn on a couple of spiderlings, for instance. It just guarantees you getting that HP burn on and doing the most amount of damage, making the run as consistent as you can make it. It also allows Crypt King as well to have a second chance of freezing, which basically prolongs how long you can survive in the Spiders Den, basically. Going back to Tyrant's kit, so he is in regen, mainly because I want to use him in places like Faction Wars in regen, because he's quite good in it. He can also solo a few things in regen kit, so it's quite nice to have him built up anyway in it. It's not needed as such, just make sure you build him with a lot of HP. He's your second fastest champ after Coldheart, and accuracy wise he's got to have decent accuracy. Masteries wise, he's in War Master, so pretty standard sort of masteries really. Next up we've got Crypt King Graal. So for those of you who don't know Crypt King, he was a bit of a Vault Guardian, so no one really used him until Spider 25 came out. Then he really shined because of his A3. So it attacks all enemies, places a freeze debuff on each target for 1 turn if they're under a HP burn debuff. Also extends the duration of any HP burn debuffs to 3 turns. This extension cannot be resisted. This ability here is amazing. It's one of the reasons why this works so well. Your HP burns, all the spiderlings are getting frozen, and the HP burns going up 1 as well. So it's a really good ability, and basically that's all you use him for, is this ability. He has got other good things in his kit, so he has also an AoE HP burn, and he's got a decreased attack, and then it's 100% if the target's under HP burn or a freeze as well. Really solid champ, good aura as well, 33% ally HP in all battles. But this is a main point of why we use him, is his A3, where he freezes any targets under HP burn debuff, and then he also extends the HP burns, which is huge. And his gear, once again, I talked about for rotation, so we're going Coldheart into Tyrant, into Crypt King, into Coldheart, into Kaimar to reset. So once again, his speed's 217 because Tyrant's 220. So he's going directly after Tyrants to make sure he gets that freeze and extension off on that HP burns. Other than that, you've got to stack a lot of accuracy on him. You've got to go hard on the accuracy. So over 500 AC is good. I've tried it with 300 AC and he misses the spiderlings all the time. So you end up hitting around about 60-70% instead of 99 to 100, so it's really worth stacking out the AC. His other stats doesn't really matter. He's not going to get targeted, he's not going to get damaged, but just make sure he's going third in the rotation and he's got a lot of accuracy. Masteries wise, self-explanatory really. You want him to have as much accuracy as possible, so just go down to Eagle Eye. And I've got the offense 3 here, but you could quite easily go defense as well. It just depends really what you're looking for. Lastly, we've got our Coldhearts. So we've got 2 Coldhearts in this team. We've got a fast Coldheart and we've got a slower Coldheart. If we have a look at their speed, so the fast one is 227 speed and the slow one is 200 speed. So once again, turn order, this Coldheart goes first, this Coldheart goes last. All we're doing there is allowing for most amount of decreased turn meter possible. So if you've got one going at the start of your turn and one going at the end of your turn, you're making sure that the spider's turn meter never gets above a certain point. So you're just allowing yourself a bit more survivability. Also, stats wise, on Spider 25, you're literally using her to do 700k damage and just reset the turn meter of Spider. So it's damage wise, it's not really that important. It's literally focus on getting the crit rate and speed So you want one to go first and you want one to go last. And I've actually got my Coldhearts at 100% crit rate, just purely for when they've used their Heart Seekers, when they're using their A1s and their A2s, they're doing a bit more damage. It's one of those things where it's worth doing if you wanted to get really sort of like min-max specific. It's worth just being able to crit on those A1s and those A2s. It just does a little bit more damage. Other than that, Masteries wise, pretty standard for a Coldheart. We're not going to be seeing big numbers, so you don't really have to worry about Helm Smasher too much. You could go Flawless Ek or even War Master if you wanted to. Damage wise, this is just my Coldheart's Masteries ever since I got her. I've just never really changed them. There's been no need to. If I ever wanted to do fast Spider 20 runs again, then this is the sort of mastery you want. So I may as well just leave it be. And the other Coldheart, exact same masteries, and stats wise around about the same sort of stats. So nearly 100% crit rate and 267 accuracy. Last but not least, we've got Kymar. I'm just going to pick out the right one. So Kaimar, for anyone who's got a Kymar, when you're using him in this scenario, you don't really need any stats. You just need to make sure he survives and goes last, really. Although you can AI tune, so if you've only got one Kymar and he's like my arena Kymar, for instance, he's fast and a lot of accuracy, you can use him. Just be that careful in the damage he puts out, because his A2 and his A1 can kill all the spiderlings, which you don't want, which is one of the reasons why I've got a Kaimar here which hasn't got any books in any of his A1 or A2, just purely so he does minimal damage to the spiderlings. And also stats wise, he's got 30% crit rate and 95 crit damage, so he's not going to be doing too much damage to the spiderlings. Once again, if the spiderlings stay alive, the HP burn does more damage, which basically clears the boss a lot quicker. But yeah, we've got him going for slowest, 152 speed. We dropped his HP down to less than 30k, which is the lowest on a team, so the spiderlings will attack him. So once again, the Coldhearts won't get targeted, or Crypt King or Tyrant won't get targeted. And then we put a bit of defense on him just to make sure he can withstand the spiderlings' attack. Other than that, pretty self-explanatory build, really. We got him in War Master. Doesn't really need it. We could just literally run him. We could probably run him level 50, to be fair. Level 50, not ascended, and still be able to do the job. Okay, so here's the run again. So I'll show you the AI setup. So we're using this team here. So we got Crypt King to prioritize his A3. So whenever that's available, he uses A3. Tyrant to prioritize his A2. So whenever that's available, he'll only use his A2. Coldheart, I've turned off at A2 just because it does too much damage to spiderlings, but prioritize at A3. Same on the second Coldheart, turned off at A2 and prioritized at A3. And then lastly, Kaimar, just kept as normal because slow Kaimar, he'll always use his reset first. Once again, we'll show you one more run. You can just see the spider's just going to whittle away until he eventually dies. Which is fair. 28 seconds. Lovely. So yeah, that's the video, guys. I mean, I'll put up on a screen now the sort of like RSL helper breakdown of the stats, so you can sort of screenshot it and remember the sort of stat requirements for each champ. Remember, guys, this game is a lot of trial and error, so there's not one fix for everything. You've got to play around with the builds until you find what works for you and your account. Take my stats as a good sort of like starting point, and then play around with them yourself. I'm always streaming on Twitch. If you ever want to drop in and drop a question about it, if you can't get it to work, my Twitch link is down below. But other than that, guys, I'll leave the RSL helper little display up for a little bit longer so you guys can have a good look at it. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.